With Texas A&M in the middle of spring practice and currently with a quarterback competition going on, I'm actually going to take some time today and talk about Coach Jimbo Fisher's offensive system and do a little deep dive, if you will, of the scheme of Coach Jimbo Fisher, what he's trying to accomplish, is what that offensive system looks like. And just to be upfront and just to, admittedly speaking, I don't think there's a real way to know the true offensive system and the scheme that they want to do unless you're within that coach's office and you're with them, on a full-time basis. But we're going to do our best just to kind of break it down. It might be kind of surface level. But we're going to do our best to break it down, look what he's trying to accomplish, and then look at the years that his offense has been performed the best, and kind of see what the quarterback needs to do and what the offense needs to do as a whole. So before we talk about the offense of Jimbo Fisher, I just want to encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel. If you look at any quarterback related content, just any football content in general, we try to put out, but we try to do these breakdowns a few times a week. So just consider subscribing and all the YouTube stuff. It does help us. So let's get into it. And the clips that we're going to be watching as I talk are going to be the game against Florida from 2020 and the game against Alabama from 2021, because over the past few years, I feel like those two games are probably the games that represent Jimbo's offense the best when they are running how he probably wants them to run. The words that come to mind when you think of Jimbo Fisher's offense is balanced, 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 and then not in a rush, not in a hurry by any means. Balance-wise being because over the past few years, or pretty much over the whole time he's been coaching, the run-to-pass ratio is very, very similar. He's always going to be about that 50% run. There's been a few times he's been 53% pass, so he's going to be very, very balanced. He's going to have a balanced approach. He's not going to be in a rush at all, right? I think he was last in plays. Ran in the SEC West this year. They ran 807 plays last year. And again, there are some quarterback things going on. There's a reason why. But even if you look at the previous years, they were never running. They were never top of the league in plays ran. But let's look real quick. Last year they ran 807 plays. In the teams with the same amount of games played, so excluding Alabama, Arkansas had over 930, Ole Miss had over 1,000, Auburn had 920, Mississippi State had over 1,000, LSU had 926. So different offensive schemes, I understand. Those teams go faster, but still it's a pretty wide gap, right? So let's keep talking about the offensive system. It's going to be you're going to have a variety of different packages thrown your way, right? You're going to see 21 personnel, 11 personnel, 10 personnel. You're going to see a spread attack. You're going to see under center and gun. So you're going to see a lot of different packages within one game. And you hear people say it's a complex scheme, right? Or it's an offense that's hard to understand. You hear people talk about that all the time in the media. And my question is, why is that? Is it really hard to understand? Or are we just not smart enough like Jimbo Fisher is, right? So let's talk about real quick why that potentially is why it's potentially a complex scheme. And again, it's probably too complex for me to understand or break down. But how I look at it is a big playbook with a lot of different formations. Now, you hear people talk about it being a big playbook, but if you watch film, you can just tell, even if you have like a moderate level of football knowledge, there's a lot of different things going on, right? And some of these schemes are over my head, but if you look at the personnel and what they're doing pre-snap, post-snap, it is a big playbook. So with that said, it's a lot of formations, a lot of plays to know as a quarterback. So it's hard to be an expert at a bunch of different things. So I'm not sure if it's really a complex system or if it's just a lot of info to be really good at. Let's take the RPO, for example. The RPO is basically one system with a few concepts in one system. It's easy to get really, really good at when you have just one dominant system compared to when you have several different schemes and systems that can be called at any given time, right? So if you have one system, you're always practicing it, it's going to be easier to get good at that compared to when you have several different schemes and you have a big playbook. It's going to be hard to be really, really good at all of those calls that are coming in from Jimbo, right? So just my opinion, obviously not impossible because you've seen it down the past, but that could be potentially why they call it complex, where it might not be super, super hard to understand necessarily. It's just a lot of information. So let's talk about what the quarterback needs to do in this offensive system, or when this offensive system is at its best, the quarterbacks, of course, are playing at their best. That's not rocket science, but the tempo is not very fast by any means. You need to have some big plays, and you need to have big plays hit kind of on an often basis. QBs need to be fitting the ball into a tight space for the simple fact that a lot of times in the scheme, quarterbacks are asked to make NFL-style throws. And you hear that said often, right? A lot of times you say, oh, NFL-style throw, meaning, oh, it's a long throw, it's a deep out, it's a deep post. Well, a lot of times it's throwing your receivers open, being a mature thrower of the football, right? So throw your guys open, because in this scheme, a lot of times they're not scheming receivers open, right? You're asking your quarterbacks to throw your guys open. And with that said, I do think as of late, it looks like they're trying to scheme guys open a bit more. I think they're trying to get to that, I don't want to say modern offense, if you will, but they're trying to help their quarterbacks out a bit more. It looks like the play calling is at least trying to do that. But still, they are trying to ask their quarterbacks to throw the guys open. There's nothing wrong with that by any means. You see it at every quarterback position on Sundays, but it can be a tall tale to ask. Is that the correct usage? It can be tough to ask a quarterback to do that. And at the college level. So again, just to kind of recap the offense, it's balance, balance, balance. They're not in a hurry, variety of packages, a lot of different formations, a lot of different things the quarterback has to know. And the quarterback should be damn good for this offense to be ran at the top level, right? So let's look at some of the stats from the past few seasons, and then let's look at the stats and compare it to the stats whenever, brain fart, whenever Jimbo was at Florida State in 2013. They won that championship. So 2021, they were 51% run, very, very balanced, not a fast pace at all with 807 plays. Their yards per attempt, and I want you to remember this stat, was only at 6.8. They passed the ball 3 times more than they ran the ball on first down. 2020, again, the Aggies' best season overall, the COVID season. They were 54% run, right? So still pretty balanced. They had 4 more rushing attempts than passing attempts on first downs, and the yards per attempt were 7. So yards per attempt were still very low, even though they had a good season overall that year. Very balanced, right? Yards per attempt still low. 2019, they were 53% passing, right? So this was the first time that they had more passing plays than running plays. 53% pass, 152 passing plays on first down, 114 rushing plays on first down. So we saw a switch. They're still balanced, still a very balanced approach, but now you have more passing on first downs, which I think is actually a good thing in this offense. The yards per attempt were 6.8, right? So still not pushing the ball downfield, still finding some success, but not very explosive. And then 2018, the first A&M season that Jimbo was there. This was the only season they had over 1,000 plays. And they actually had a pretty good. I think this season is when Jimbo had his highest points per game when he's been at A&M. I could be wrong; it could be a different year, but regardless, it was in the 30s. So 2018, over 1,000 plays, yards per attempt were 7.4. So that's the highest it's been since Jimbo's been at A&M, and they were 53% run. So still very, very balanced, but you did see that the yards per attempt pushed the ball downfield a bit more, correlated with the scoreboard, and it correlated with A&M scoring more points and it being the most points A&M scored since Jimbo's been there. I think, now I could be wrong, but it's at least the second most points he scored, right? So I'll double check and tell you in the comments or tell you in the description below if I'm right or wrong about this. And they were very balanced on first down, only 3 more passing plays than rushing plays. So again, that was the highest yards per attempt and probably their best offensive year, right? So, but still higher back, but still this year shows what Jimbo, I think, wants to do offensively. I think he just needs that quarterback that can play like Jimbo, that can play like Jameis, right? Now that's tough to ask, but let's look real quick at these stats. So they have 51% run, so very similar to the percentages at Texas A&M, like very, very balanced. They had 980 plays. Now they were blowing teams out, so they moved a bit faster, but they still, they were blowing teams out, so they didn't need to be go, go, go. 980 plays, 194 passing plays on first down compared to 139, so they're passing a bit more on first down. But here's the number, yards per attempt, meaning, I don't even know if I clarified this at the beginning, I apologize. Yards per attempt, meaning yards per attempt that the quarterback threw the ball on each play, 10, which is very, very high. But you saw that was the best offense he's had. They won the national championship. So to me, it correlates with if you're going to run this type of offense where it's a bit more slow tempo and there's a lot of formations going on. You're asking your quarterback to make up some tough plays. Then I think pushing the ball downfield and doing it accurately is of course going to help that offense overall, right? So we saw the best offensive year by Jimbo. Their yards per attempt were over 2.5 than the best yards per attempt that any Aggie quarterback has had since Jimbo has been there. So real quick, so not real quick, just to recap, yards per attempt I do find valuable because it's pushing the ball downfield, and that leads to big explosive plays, which I think for A&M to really optimize their offense, I think having some more explosive plays could potentially help. But I'm just some guy on YouTube talking, and Jimbo would know this way better than me, obviously, and he'll be the first to tell you that if they want to push the ball downfield. So I'm kind of preaching to the choir, I know. But let's recap real quick. Push the ball downfield. It's a very, very balanced offense. They ask a lot of the quarterback. And they ask the quarterback to make NFL-style throws. It is a lot. I don't know if it's complex or if it's just a lot of information that Jimbo has. That's what makes him such a great coach. Right. So again, I know it was a deep dive, yes, kind of surface level stuff still, but we tried to go a little bit deeper and just kind of give our spin and kind of our opinion on Jimbo's offense. Again, it didn't even scratch the surface of what his offense probably is. We need to be in the coach's room to really know. But hopefully, there's something valuable and some takeaway from this little breakdown. So if you like the video, please consider subscribing. Comment, like, all the YouTube stuff. It does help. Let us know what your thoughts are on Jimbo's offense and kind of, what you would like to see improved upon or done more. Let us know in the comments below. We'll see you next time on the next quarterback-related video.